How can supervisors use the framework to work on the students' academic writing?
It's a really important use of the framework because it's such a central part of the supervisor's job. And you will find that I've published on this, in particular, an article with Rowena Murray, who's a great expert on supporting and developing academic writing. And there are many different ways you can use the framework to analyse them quite clearly. So in terms of the functional approach, the supervisor would be looking at goal setting, monitoring progress, designing experiences, tasks and events that will help the student. And so they will be looking to see whether the student completes the agreed tasks and meets those goals. Under enculturation, they'll be looking at what's the best way of giving feedback to this student to help them meet the discipline's demands. So where is the student's written work and where is the standard of the discipline's written work, and how can I help the student understand the difference? They will also be looking at ways of making groups work together so that groups can understand the type of dialogue that's used. So writing groups within a discipline would be a very useful thing for a supervisor to set up. They will be exploring the typical moves and discourses used in a particular discipline. Under critical thinking, they'll be introducing rhetorical strategies. They'll be discussing the criteria for what is a good enough piece of doctoral work. They will be looking at how you explain what is original or what is the original contribution to knowledge from this piece of work. They'll be looking at how we construct and deconstruct arguments in any journal articles that are being written. Under emancipation, this can be a quite useful way of dealing with writer's block if you've got a student suffering from this. So you might encourage a student to write very freely, to write what they would like their research to find out without any restrictions of proof or legitimization or references, just to write down what they would like to happen. You could be asking students to explain where they sit down, how they start writing, so that you can think about what might help them, what prompts might help them. You could be asking them what they want to achieve by their writing, so that you can assess their inner motivation, perhaps, and help them to nurture that motivation and keep it going. You would also be encouraging students to read very widely, so that they're not just reading stuff in their discipline, because that might deepen and make their argument more substantial to a wider range of people. Under relationship development, you might appropriately discuss what difficulties you've had with writing, because that can be very freeing for students to see that it's a much longer process than just being able to get your 100,000 words or your article journal written. It's a long gestation to get something like this done. You might decide to co-author, in which case, of course, you would have discussed the publication plan and who's going to contribute what and in what order authors are going to be accredited. You might try to ask them, if you give them a prompt, what would they write the next sentence to be? So that kind of a patch writing approach could be very strong. Whatever you do, it would be a joint enterprise, talking about how you feel about writing, how hopefully it excites you so that you can pass that on to your student.